Greetings and welcome to the Halloween edition of the Sliders Review. And I'm here today to talk to you about Terror Train 2, the 2022 Tubi original movie. So this movie is a direct sequel to that of the Tubi original Terror Train, which is a remake of the reboot of the original Terror Train from 1980. And I was kind of shocked and surprised when I found out that like a streaming movie got a sequel and the original one didn't. But the reason why the original one did not get a sequel is because it was financial flop and everything. And so before I ever watched either of these movies or the original, I read the synopsis to this, and also, it has like the poster picture and stuff, which by the way, this mask used in the picture right here never shows up in the movie. Why is it here? Heck if I know. But reading the synopsis, it reads that the survivors of the last killings and everything board the train again. So I'm all like, oh, okay, so I kind of just spoiled it for myself. I see that this one woman and this one guy must have survived the original movie. So I wish they would have used like a different picture, or not have the guy in there at least, or something like that, or just have a picture of a train or something like that, But yeah, this movie stars the survivors of the original movie. So Robin Alamar comes back and everything, and so do so many of the other survivors. So Mary comes back, Pet comes back, the president comes back, the student body one, and the magician and Sadie and everything. They are the only main characters from the last movie to survive. Although the president, Mary, and Pet aren't really main characters of the last movie. They're more like supporting characters. But now everybody, for the most part, well, at least those three, have been elevated a bit more and everything, except for the president. And he doesn't really do much. He just kind of talks in this movie. Mary, she has a bit more to do than what she did in the last movie, and Pet has more to do. I don't know why. The president dude just never really has much to do in either of these movies and stuff. And so, when watching this movie, I realized something. This feels like a watered down TV movie. And not only that, but it feels like, and I can't believe they did this, it feels like the other Terror Train movie from 2022, because both movies were filmed back to back. One came out in October, this one in December. And it's just kind of like, really? First of all, why in the world would they reboard the train for after what happened to them a year ago? That's just stupid. And they renamed the train Terror Train. And not only that, but it's just kind of like, it feels like the same exact movie, except for there's no prank. So Kenny doesn't get pranked because he died in the first movie. So there's no prank. They reboard the train. Once again, the killer, kills somebody before it, and sneaks on board the train and with the costume and just starts killing people every once in a while and everything. A whole lot of dialogue and stuff like that. And the killer reveal is very similar to the whole cell phone thing. And why redo the same thing? I almost cussed. I almost cussed. Why redo the same thing? They should have came up with something completely different. Keep the same cast. I appreciate that. But come up with something different to where they don't have to be on a train no more. I know the title would have threw people off, but still, whatever. Now, This movie is directed by the same guy who directed the first movie or the rebooted movie, and that is Felipe Gagnon, written by Ian Carpenter and Aaron Martin, the two guys that are responsible for the slasher television show named Slasher, a Canadian show, a show I happen to like. Well, the first 3 seasons, mainly the first two. I love the first two. I like the third, but I hate the fourth and the fifth one. The fourth one has its moments, but somewhere around that third season, this is when the writing started to slip, just kinda. That, and in the third season, they added politics. I'm like, oh Jesus, have mercy. But it was by that fourth season, truly, that's when they started to slip. They have a new show called Hotel Hell, which is on Shudder and AMC Plus. I have not seen that yet. I just hope it's good. Now, one thing I noticed when watching this movie is that when I reviewed the reboot, I said that, it was a beat by beat of the original movie. It's just some slight altercations and stuff. And I was really shocked and confused because these two guys do a pretty good job when writing drama and slasher and stuff and kills. If you watch Slasher season 1 to 2 and maybe 3, boy, I tell you this right here, right now, you will not see kills like that. And they're really good with having like a motive, and they're really good with like character development and stuff like that. So I was really disappointed with the first movie that it was just a beat by beat of the original. I'm gonna assume that the studio told them, hey, just copy the first movie and don't change too much. That's what I truly believe. Because when you watch this second movie, I can kind of see some of their writing in this movie. Somebody obsessed with like social media trying to be famous. Trauma and PTSD for something that bad happened to them in the past. A gruesome kill, my God. I was not expecting to see what I saw, especially after watching the original and the reboot. Gat stabbed with the spear, person pulled it out, and you saw a long intestine come from the stomach. I was not expecting that, and that is still gross in my head. But this is what these guys do. When they make kills, they make them brutal and everything. That's one of the reasons why I like the slasher television series. So I can see their creativity in this movie. So they're finally able to do some things of their own. However, it is still just a rehash of like the rebooted movie, which is a rehash of the original movie. So I'm very disappointed that these guys didn't really come up with nothing that creative in this movie. And I feel embarrassed because, I have praised these guys for their slasher television series. So I was expecting something a heck of a lot more. I was expecting something along the lines of Slasher Season 1 or Slasher Season 2. Because if you were there to watch those 2 seasons, you'll be like, holy crap. So I'm a bit disappointed, I have to say. They're better than this. So I don't know what the heck has been going on with them and stuff. However, in this movie, I do like seeing some things. I like seeing the PTSD. Because, like, when I watch slasher movies and when I own the sequels to them, you rarely see the PTSD from a lot of the final girls. Alana has a lot of PTSD from what happened to her a year ago. Everywhere she goes, she constantly sees her dead friends. And with the blood dripping down their body, talking about, how come you couldn't help us? Like, this is all your fault and blah, 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 blah. Like, she's losing her freaking mind. You know what I'm saying? And so, like, this is really nice to see in a slasher movie because you rarely see that. And that's because most of the slasher movies I've seen, some of them just don't get sequels. And if they do get a sequel, it's a completely different cast. However, the only time I've ever really seen PTSD was slightly, just a tiny bit in Scream 2, doing that rehearsal play scene, but more so in Scream 3. I appreciate that. And a teeny tiny bit, and I still know what you did last summer in the very beginning when Julie thought she saw the fisherman and everything. Other than that, I really don't see no PTSD in a lot of slasher final girls and stuff. So it was really nice and appreciated here. However, the problem I'm also having with this script is this movie feels like Terror Train meets Scream 4. And the only problem I'm having with that is that it was done better in Scream 4. So once again, I am disappointed in these guys. They kind of just wrote it like it's a TV episode and stuff, as opposed to writing like a movie. And so if they was to really nail that, like, that Scream 4, like, twist and everything, if they were to come up with something original, I would have been a heck of a lot happier. Because once again, the acting's fine, although sometimes the acting is slightly off. With that of Pet. Now, the actress who plays Pet, I've seen her in something before, so I know for a fact she can act. The problem is they have her acting like a typical social media influencer where she really sounds out her words. She acts kind of valley girlish and everything, and it kind of throws me off a little bit. Now, Robin, who plays Alana, I said this at the end of the last review for the first rebooted movie. Her acting was just okay in the first movie. It was passable, it was alright until you get to that third act. And everything in that third act was terrible along with her acting. However, I also said when it comes to this movie, in the short amount of time it took to shoot the first movie to the second movie, because you gotta remember they were shot back to back and like they came out within a few months of each other, her acting improved by like 100, and it was very nice to see. I hope she gets more roles. I know she was in a slasher horror movie with Peyton List. I have got to look that movie up. But I don't really see her acting much. It's mostly like posting hot pictures on Instagram and stuff like that, which she is an amazing model. But like, yeah, her acting got a heck of a lot better in this movie. Except for that third act again. However, it was a bit better than the last movie third act. The problem I just had with her, she ran like she was jogging, and when she had to fight, she's acting like she's in kind of almost like, I don't know, some type of fighting movie, Xena type style, something like that. It was just a bit off. Like, I'm just kind of like, you gotta act more scared than that. You gotta run with your arms flaring in the air, slasher movie style. You know what I'm saying? Now, the music is the same. The lighting is the same. I have a problem with the lighting. The lighting is too bright, too colorful, and it needs to be dingier and darker. Trying to see if there's anything else I had a problem with. I still got a problem with why the killer has to sneak aboard the terror train in a costume. I mean, it don't make no sense. Like, it don't make no sense. The first rebooted movie didn't make no sense, and this one don't make no sense either. And so, like, let's see what else. Oh, another thing that these two dudes are known for, adding LGBT characters in like a movie. In the first one, I was kind of shocked I didn't see it, especially because they kept checking stuff off a list when you watch that first movie. Here, they're no longer checking nothing off a list, but they did check off something they left out of the first movie, and that is LGBT representation. In this movie, there is like a trans man and there is a closeted lesbian. And so, like, I'm trying to think of something else. That's basically about it. It's a little bit more dramatic, which I'm okay with that. I just wish it was something a bit more original and things I didn't notice from other like slasher type movies and stuff. And so we have Alana, who's still a pre-med student and she has to operate on a cadaver, but she's having PTSD. One, like I said before, I appreciate the PTSD, but I also appreciate that they're showing some type of medical something because that's one thing about the original that kind of bugged me is just that they're called pre-med students, but there's never no scene where they have to do anything kind of medical. I mean, yeah, that's a cadaver, but that's about it. One guy is named Dot, but that's about it. And so I do appreciate that they finally show stuff like this and also show it more. In the remake, they just had her spouting off medical jargon and everything. And so she's just really upset and she can't focus and stuff like that. She's very traumatized to what happened to her. Because you have to remember, she pulled a prank on an innocent guy who just wanted to make out with her. Then his mom went and killed like the people that were responsible for the prank and a couple other like innocent people. And she almost lost her life. She got stabbed, which once again, I appreciate that this final girl got stabbed. It's very rare to see a final girl get stabbed. And so to cope with this, because it's been a whole year, she's kind of distanced herself from like people and stuff. Like Sadie, the person who worked on the train, they got like really close as friends, but then after a while, she just stopped talking to her. And so she has her roommate for comfort. Now, Nina Rome plays that of Claudia, her roommate. Her roommate is a very interesting, pushy kind of person. There is a flyer because once again, somebody has organized that they all like, for New Year's go on a train and just have a big blowout and everything. Stupid because of what happened a year ago. But her roommate is constantly pushing her to go, but Alana does not want to go. She's all like, my therapy class, like this is like really therapeutic, blah, 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 stuff like that. Her roommate, from the moment she starts talking, is giving off a lesbian type vibe that she's really into Alana. But she's not just giving off any kind of lesbian vibe. She's giving off predatory lesbian vibes. Which is a really bad trope for lesbians in like TV shows and movies and stuff. And so as they go aboard like the train, Alana, not Alana, but Claudia is very protective of like Alana. So much that she acts like a pit bull. She will literally like fall on her sword for like Alana. Like it's very obvious she is in love with her. If somebody says something to Alana that's like disrespectful, she will get in that person's face and tell them off and get ready to fight them and stuff. And you start to see the jealousy in her eyes in this movie because like she feels like Alana does not appreciate her for always having her back. Then when Alana starts to reconnect with other survivors of the train, and that was Sadie, Claudia starts to get jealous. So could she be the killer and everything? Dakota, Jamal Wellman, he comes back as the president. He doesn't do much for the movie. He's just there to say a couple of stuff. But he's the idiot who reorganized this whole thing to have like, everybody go on a train for New Year's. Still stupid because of what happened last year. And so Pet and Mary come up and it turns out that they're both wearing costumes. And it's Pet. She's the one who told everybody, hey, dress up as costumes like we did last year. And even though it's not costume themed because of what happened last year. So a couple of people show up in costume. It turns out that both Pet and Mary has become very famous because of what happened last year. In fact, all of the survivors have become very famous because of what happened last year, especially Alana. People are always taking their pictures, people are always asking about what happened, they want their autographs. They have become the new IT students because they survived the massacre and everything. So Pet and Mary have taken advantage of this and have become social media influencers and stuff. Always on social media talking about their experiences and documenting the entire thing of what's happening on the train. Tim Rosen comes back as the magician. I don't know why. Why would the president? See, the president doesn't have a name. It just, I tell you, the people. This was created in 1980. All right, they don't got like names. This is why one person's name is Pet. And so, like, the magician is back. Why would the president rehire him? Because of what happened last year. But for whatever reason, he did. And the magician said that he needed the money. And he still looks as creepy as ever and stuff. And once again, he doesn't do a magic act. But the movie is convinced they want you to ship that of Alana and the magician. Those two reconcile very quickly. They rekindle. They talk a lot. And this makes Claudia very jealous. So much that she doesn't like the magician. And the magician is getting strange vibes off of that of Claudia because she's so pushy and so overly protective of Alana. Especially with some of the freakier stuff that's starting to happen on the train because once again, people are dying. So he takes it upon himself to steal her cell phone. And because he's just that suspicious and everything. So he's trying to figure out the password and is all like, maybe it's Alana. And it turns out it is Alana and everything. So he's even more suspicious, especially with what he finds on there. There's a brand new character named Lucy this time. And Lucy is just like one of the students who's very obsessed with what happened last year. She wasn't there last year, but she's constantly invading Alana's space, asking her what was it like to survive and this and that. Just one of those really irritating type fans. She's a little rude and a little sassy and stuff. Sadie is back from last year and she's taken over Carney's job. And her and Alana haven't spoken in a very long time. They just decided to keep their distance because of what happened and stuff. But they easily rekindled their friendship from like last year. And, you know, they still wonder if Carney could still be alive. And if so, where is she? Xander is new to the movie, and Xander is the security guard. And so Xander is the transgender actor who plays in this movie. And I have to say, for a security job, he is the worst. He doesn't even bring a gun. And like, he doesn't even search to make sure people's Halloween weapons are real or not. And not only that, but like, cause like, this is what I've never understood about this franchise. Why are there people bringing real weapons on like board the train? In the original and in the reboot, somebody brought a real sword. This time, somebody brought a real axe and everything. And so, like, because one person is, no, they brought like a real knife. So, like, somebody is pretending to be Carney, wearing like a Carney mask and trying to scare that of Alana. But still, the security guard has like no gun. I don't get it. And not only that, but there's this new character who doesn't last long. He's the first one to die. And he's talking to the president. He's all like, what happened to y'all last year is not going to happen to me. And he like whips out his knife, whips out his police stick, and whips out something else. And he doesn't even get a chance to use it because as he's trying to pee alongside the train is moving. So he has to run real fast, jump on board. And as soon as he gets on board, the killer kills him. And so Alana is having even more PTSD while being on like the train. And especially now because a lot of the students who are younger are really getting on her nerves. You have Lucy, who's showing her video of some of the of like some articles or something like that, and some like really stuff that she just does not want to see. Then you have the fake Carney person who later dies. But then you have the one person dressing up as like the lizard person, but a more sophisticated lizard costume, and trying to scare her and everything. But he just wanted like, you know, a selfie. And so Mary ends up making out with this dude. And so she really just can't handle it. Now, Mary is next to die and everything. The killer found the lizard dude who she was making out with, killed him, stole the costume, and started recording Mary as they're stabbing Mary over and over and over again and posting it on the internet. See, there is an app that's like has like a bloody heart and everything, and it's like for slasher survivors and stuff like that, and victims, and a lot of people have joined it, but of course Alana has not. And so when I think Lucy shows her the video footage of Mary getting stabbed, she doesn't necessarily believe it because she thinks once again it's somebody pulling a prank, until Alana sees like the killer clown like strangling, I think, the fake Carney with like some rope, and she just looks at the person, closes the bathroom door, and silently freaks out and don't try to tell nobody. Because I think this time the cell service it should be working this year, I think, on the train and stuff like that. Anyway, she tells Xander, she tells Sadie, and she tells some other people, hey, it's happening again. Everybody's freaking out. So they have to try to find the killer, blah, 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 blah. So Pet is very irritating this time because all she cares about is social media followers. Her and Alana get into like an argument and stuff. And so she just wants to be famous and famous only, but she is upset that Mary has died and everything. Now, because it's New Year's and everything, they're doing the countdown. You know how you're supposed to kiss on New Year's. So Claudia just kisses Alana, and Alana is just kind of like, okay, whatever, I'm fine with that. And it's just kind of like, she doesn't realize this girl is in love with her. And not only that, but she doesn't even freak out that another girl kisses her. Most girls will, and most girls won't. But anyways, the magician ruins that of like, you know, Claudia's good time. And so while all these killings are happening, they're now looking for like a weapon to use, like a gun, but there is no gun. There's a flare gun. So they have to go and get that. And so the magician is all like, yo, this girl is crazy in love with you. She's like a stalker, blah, 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 blah. Her password to her phone is your name. And she's the one who created this scary, spooky website app type thing. So Claudia is trying to confess, like, you know, like, hey, this is why I created this. All while freaking out and pointing the flare gun at everybody. Why she's having the meltdown, freaking out and pointing the flare gun is beyond me. This is where the writing just gets kind of weird. And those two writers they're better than this, man. I don't understand this. So anyway, she tells her, hey, I created this app for survivors and everything. Survivors are people who tries to kill them, so we can all bond and blah, 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 blah. But the site has morphed into something completely different. It's a stupid reason to create this app. I mean, it literally looks like a horror movie app and everything. Like creepy pasta, whatever you call it, or what is that thing from Pretty Little Liars? Spooky spaghetti and everything. And so Alana is trying to calm her down because so nobody gets like shot with a flare and everything. While all this is happening, the magician grabs the spear because they're in that same room with the cage and the spear from the first movie. Oh, and I can't believe what they did after this. Making the magician weak as can be, he tells Alana, get out the way, and he goes to stab that of Claudia, just assuming she's the killer. Claudia is able to Jackie Chan her way out of this and take down the magician and smack him in the head with the handle of the spear. Note, she hit him with the handle, not the actual blade part. but he still busts his head open nevertheless. And you have to look at Claudia. She is skinny as a toothpick, and she was able to take down this grown man. That don't make no sense. So as Alana still trying to calm her down, Pet decides to grab the spear and stab that of Claudia, killing her, pulling out some intestines. So after this, like, Pet goes on social media, she's like, I just survived another massacre and I killed the killer and everything. It was so traumatic, my fans and everything. I'm just like, Lord have mercy. Well, at some point in time, Xander and Sadie get killed. So apparently Claudia was not the killer. It was just a huge misdirect with her being super jealous and always like stalking Alana. And she was going to confess to Alana and she loves her. But this is when the magician stepped in and tried to stab her and stuff like that. Like, she was getting ready to say those words. So because now the two people who run the train are now killed, Alana knows this is not over yet. So, just like in the first movie, Alana is looking on a cell phone. Not her cell phone this time, but Mary's cell phone, because she's watching the footage of Mary getting killed. And she noticed something. She noticed that at one freeze frame of the video, she sees the knife, but the reflection of the killer eyes in the knife. That's convenient. I mean, it's clever, but it's convenient. So now she knows exactly who the real killer is, and she goes to confront that person. At this point in time, Pet is trying to put the moves on the magician, trying to make out with him, but he loves himself some Alana. But he'll take that kiss anyway, only for Alana to come in and be all like, you just want to have everything I have, don't you? And she tells Pet, I know you're the killer. And it's like, wait, what? Pet is the killer? Yes, Pet is indeed the killer. Now, when it comes to the actress, Romy Waltman, or Weltman, I've seen her before in a show called Creepy, the Candlestick episode. Go watch my review on that. It was one of the better episodes. But she is the killer. Why? Because they pulled a Scream 4. She just wants to be famous, and she feels like Alana does not appreciate being famous because of what happened to her last year. She takes it for granted. But, you know, in the age of social media, it's all about clicks and views and everything. So she decided, you know what? I'm going to become even more famous when I be the sole survivor from the people who survived like last year and everything. So she goes to kill, well, first she stabs the magician, and he survives like always. Then she goes after like Alana, they fight. Alana gets stabbed again. I appreciate the final girl getting stabbed. But then Alana gets the knife from her and slits her throat. Oh, no. She stabs her in the chest and just goes straight down. And now Pet is dead. Now, I don't mind Pet, like, you know, doing the whole wanting to be famous thing and, you know, recreating murders and, you know, how it happened last year to be even more famous. The problem with all this is just the setup. See, it would have made more sense if it was probably the president, because he's the one who arranged for everybody to be on the terror train and stuff like that. But remember, it was Pet who suggested the whole Halloween costume so she could sneak around on the train undetected. But still, my problem with all this is, okay, first of all, why wait a whole year? She had no idea the president was going to do the whole train New Year's thing again. You know what I'm saying? Like, she had no idea. Also, she had no idea Alana would even go. She never tried to convince Alana to go. It was actually Claudia that convinced her to go. So, you know, she had no idea the final girl was going to be on the train and everything. It was just all a coincidence. Not to mention, how does she know anybody will be wearing a costume, walking around the train and stuff like that? So it's just all out of convenience and stuff. Not only that, But she's really short. How the heck did she kill a bunch of these grown people and stuff, as tiny as she is? Also, I forgot to mention when they were searching for the killer on the bus, they found a shrine, of all the stuff that happened last year. So they assumed Carney was alive. But Claudia said, oh, she probably got ate by wolves and everything and blah, 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 because she did survive the first movie, right? Well, there's an eyeball in a glass jar, and it's Carney's eyeball. And so now you have to believe, okay, so Pet went all the way back outside in the woods on the train tracks to find Carney, kill her, and take her eyeball. That's very elaborate and it's convenient, and we don't hear nothing about that. So she had to get the eyeball somehow. And then there's the whole being famous thing. Yes, we do get to see her obsession with wanting to be famous on social media, but she's just a typical influencer. It was done a million times better in Scream 4 because Jill went the distance. Jill isolated all her friends in a house, killed all her friends, had her accomplice kill the friends. She killed her own mom just so she can be famous because she tried to mimic that of Sydney. Sydney's mom is dead. The girl killed her own mother and everything. Then, after stabbing Sydney and assuming Sydney is dead and everybody else is dead, she stages a pretend fight in the living room to make it seem like she had a struggle. She takes her fingernails and claws the side of her cheek. Then she presses a knife up against her shoulder and she rams it into the wall to make it look like she got stabbed. Then she busted her head wide on a mirror just to bloody her face. And then the cherry on the top was that she jumped back on a glass table, smashing it. Then, when she saw the way Sydney's body was laying on the ground, she decided to mimic her pose. And when she saw her fingers were not in the right position, she later adjusted her fingers to get in the right position. That was done a million times better than what was done in this movie. And they couldn't go that extra mile for this movie. It would have made the movie so much better and stuff than what they did. And the chase sequence was very short. The kill was very short. The movie does have some pretty decent kills. They do mix CGI blood with practical blood. I appreciate that because I hate CGI blood. And so like, but the kills were a bit weaker in this movie than what they were in the last movie. But at least they actually show people getting stabbed as opposed to the original. But yeah, it's just kind of like this movie was just a watered down version. It's not as good as the original. It's not as good as the remake. They really should have came up with something completely different. And not only that, but like Pet never went after the president and everything. The dude is literally him and Alana and the magician are the only survivors now. Everybody else from the first movie is now dead. Also, now that I think about it, Pet's motive has become very cliche in slasher movies. It first happened in Scream 2 when Mickey wanted to get caught and put on trial. Then, like I said before, in Scream 4 with Jill wanting to become famous on social media and everything. Then it was done in Pretty Little Liars Summer School where this one person wanted to be like famous and like make a movie and crap like that. And then the whole premise was also done in Totally Killer on Amazon Prime when this podcast person became famous because he's always talking about these murders that happened when he was a teenager. But now, since nothing has happened in over like 30 something years, he decided to restart the killings and everything like that. So this whole wanting to be famous and killing people just to stay famous and on social media, it has been done to death now. So I'm actually am tired of like this trope. That wasn't that spooky. All right, well, I shall talk to y'all later. Bye.